You ever look back and realize a certain day was the last time your life felt normal? Not exciting, not tragic, just normal. For me, it was a Sunday morning, late fall, chilly enough to justify an extra blanket on the bed, but not quite cold enough for the heater to kick on. I remember the smell of coffee filling the kitchen and the way the light came through the blinds just right, making everything feel warm and soft. Melissa, my wife of 18 years, sat across from me at the table. She had her legs tucked under her, sipping tea and scrolling through her phone like she always did. Our daughter Emily had left for a sleepover the night before. I remember thinking how quiet the house felt without her, peaceful, but also a little too still. I wasn't unhappy. That's the part that stings the most looking back. I really thought we were okay. Sure, the romance had faded a bit. Life has a way of doing that to you after almost 2 decades. You go from spontaneous date nights and passion to shared grocery lists and talking about who's going to fix the broken dryer. But that's marriage, right? Melissa and I had our routines. We'd make fun of the same commercials, roll our eyes at the same neighborhood drama, and still had that weird little habit of texting each other memes even when we were in the same room. I thought that meant we were connected. I thought that meant something. I worked construction, mostly residential remodeling. Not glamorous, but it paid the bills. She worked part-time as a dental office receptionist. We lived modestly but comfortably. 2 paid-off cars, a dog who thought she was the queen of the couch, and a daughter we both adored. There were no red flags. At least, not ones that screamed. Maybe a few that whispered, but I ignored them. Melissa had been more distant the last few months, but I chalked it up to midlife stress. She'd started working out more, changing her hair, acting a little perkier than usual. I figured maybe she was just trying to feel better about herself. I never imagined she was doing it for someone else. I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. Because when you've spent nearly 2 decades with someone, you build this dangerous thing called trust. You assume you know them. You assume they know you. You assume you're on the same team. So that Sunday, I remember sitting at the table with my second cup of coffee, thinking how nice it was to have a quiet morning. I even considered taking Melissa out for lunch. We hadn't been on a date in a while, and I thought it might be good to reconnect a bit. Just the 2 of us, like old times. She looked up from her phone at one point and gave me a smile. One of those small, polite smiles. I smiled back. I didn't know it then, but she had already checked out. Her body was in that kitchen, but her heart was somewhere else, probably with him. That was the last day I believed I had a wife. The last day I thought I understood my life. The last day before it all started to unravel, thread by thread, faster than I could hold it together. The worst part? I didn't see any of it coming. And honestly, that still haunts me. The first gust of cold wind hit that very next day, Monday. I remember it not because anything dramatic happened, but because of how ordinary it all felt, and how wrong that ordinariness turned out to be. Melissa was already up when I walked into the kitchen. She was dressed, makeup on, hair curled. Now, Melissa wasn't exactly a stay-in-pajamas-all-day kind of woman, but this was a level of effort I hadn't seen since our anniversary dinner a few months back. I joked that she must have a big day at work. She laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that doesn't reach the eyes. A courtesy laugh. The kind people give strangers in an elevator. She said she had errands after work, that she might be late. I didn't think twice. I kissed her on the cheek, grabbed my thermos, and headed to the truck like it was any other day. But here's the thing about gut feelings, they don't shout. They whisper. They don't slap you in the face. They tap you on the shoulder, real quiet like, and wait for you to turn around. That whole day, I had a weird tightness in my chest. Like I had forgotten something important. Like something was wrong, but I couldn't name it. I figured maybe I was just tired. Maybe the cold weather was getting to me. But it lingered. I tried texting Melissa around noon. Just one of those dumb memes we used to send each other. She didn't respond. Not unusual, but still. Then I noticed she hadn't read it. Hours passed. Still nothing. My brain, of course, started filling in the blanks. Now, to be clear, I didn't jump straight to she's cheating. That wasn't the first floor my elevator hit. At first, it was stuff like, did something happen? Is she okay? Did her phone die? Then came the second tier of thoughts. The ones I didn't want to admit were forming. Why didn't she text back? Why is she suddenly so busy? Since when does she dress up for errands? That evening, she came home later than usual. Hair a little messier than it had been that morning. Eyes a little glassy. She looked, used up, in a way that didn't scream exhaustion. More like a worn-out glow. I asked her how her day was. She said fine, poured herself a glass of wine, and retreated to the bedroom. That night, lying in bed beside her, I kept staring at the ceiling. She had fallen asleep, or at least pretended to. Her back to me. The same back I had once traced with my fingers every night. The same back that now felt like a wall. I started replaying everything. The changes in her mood. The gym obsession. The new perfume that hadn't been around in years. The way her phone was suddenly always face down, always silenced, and always locked with a code I didn't know. That tightness in my chest wasn't going away. If anything, it was growing. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself I trusted her. But the truth? The truth was, something had shifted. And I felt it. Not like a storm, more like a draft through a crack in the window. Subtle, but cold. And steady. That night, I realized I had a choice. Keep ignoring it, or start listening to that whisper tapping on my shoulder. You ever try to talk yourself out of your own instincts? It's like arguing with a part of you that doesn't speak in full sentences, just feelings. And man, those feelings started getting louder. By the end of that week, I was checking things I never used to care about. Her phone, for starters. Not actually touching it. I'm not that guy, but I noticed how it never left her side. Used to be she'd leave it charging on the counter overnight. Now, it slept under her pillow. Like a teddy bear with a data plan. She also started getting these late-night messages. The screen would light up, just for a second. Enough for me to catch a name. One name that kept popping up. Eric. I didn't know an Eric. She never mentioned one. It wasn't her boss, her coworkers, or anyone from our circle. I asked, casually, who Eric was. She said he was just someone from a book club. Book club? That was a new one. Apparently, she had joined a few weeks back. I hadn't heard a word about it until now. Funny how all the big changes in her life seemed to happen when I wasn't around. I tried to play it cool. I mean, what was I going to say? Hey, I don't believe in your mysterious new hobby, and this Eric guy sounds like a walking red flag? I didn't want to be that husband. The jealous, overreacting one. So I nodded. Said that sounded nice. Then I excused myself and stared blankly at the bathroom mirror for 20 straight minutes, wondering if I was going crazy. But here's what really twisted the knife. It wasn't just her distance. It was how good she was at pretending nothing had changed. She still made dinner. Still laughed at my dumb jokes. Still hugged me on her way out the door. But her hugs had a hollowness to them. Like she was going through the motions. Like someone who remembered the dance steps, but not the music. One night, I picked up her laundry from the basket while she was showering, trying to be helpful, like always. That's when I saw it. A receipt in the pocket of her jeans. One of those thermal ones that fade if you so much as breathe on them. This one was from a restaurant downtown. A nice place. Candlelight and cloth napkins kind of place. And it was from the same night she told me she was at book club. 2 entrees. 1 bottle of wine. A charge just high enough to tell me it wasn't dinner with a friend. I held that little slip of paper in my hand like it was radioactive. My pulse spiked. My ears rang. There it was, my whisper had become a full-on scream. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed to be sure. Fully sure. Call it cowardice. Call it strategy. I call it survival. Because once you let the truth out into the open, there's no stuffing it back in. So I started watching. Quietly. Carefully. Like a man looking for footprints in fresh snow. And every step she took left a mark. After I found that receipt, something inside me shifted. I didn't get angry. Not yet. What I felt was colder than that. Detached, like I had just stepped out of my own life and was watching it from across the room. I started keeping track. Not with spreadsheets or anything, just mental notes. When she left. When she came back. What she was wearing. Whether she brought home leftovers from those book club meetings. She never did. And here's the thing that eats at you. Even while you're collecting your little pieces of evidence, you still hope you're wrong. You hope there's a boring, innocent explanation that makes you feel like a fool for even questioning it. Because the alternative? It's the unraveling of everything you've built. One night, I saw her slip outside with her phone pressed tight to her ear. I stayed by the window, watching her pace the driveway, laughing softly. A laugh I hadn't heard aimed at me in months. When she came back inside, I pretended to be asleep. She stood in the doorway for a minute. I felt her looking at me. Then she got in bed without a word and turned her back. The silence was worse than yelling. So I did what any guy in my position might do. I Googled Eric. Just first name, the city, and a little creativity. Took me about an hour to find a gym owner with a recently divorced client base and a predictable Instagram. He liked posting motivational quotes. You know the type. The kind of guy who wears tight shirts and tells women they're warriors while counting their squats. Melissa followed him. That was enough for me. Once I had a name, a face, and a pretty good idea of who he was, my brain kicked into overdrive. I wasn't looking for drama. I wasn't planning revenge. At that point, I just wanted the truth, clear, undeniable, in black and white. Not because I didn't already know, but because I needed to stop gaslighting myself into thinking I didn't. I started with little things. I checked her calendar when she left her laptop open. Book club, 6 p.m. Same as always. The gym Eric owned? 5 blocks from the wine bar listed on that receipt. Funny how her book club always seemed to happen in the same part of town where he worked. That weekend, she said she was going to help a friend pack for a move. I didn't say a word, just nodded and wished her a good day. But after she left, I drove to that friend's place. The house was dark. No moving truck. No boxes. No friend. I parked down the block and just sat there, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. She was lying. Again, the weirdest part? I didn't even feel betrayed in that moment. I felt calm, like I had crossed into new territory, where emotions took a back seat to facts. Like I was finally watching the truth play out, frame by frame, and all I had to do was hit record. I drove back home. Didn't call her. Didn't confront her. I was done asking questions I already knew the answers to. The night it all locked into place wasn't dramatic. No loud confrontation, no tears, no crashing plates. Just a silence that stretched too long and a look in her eyes I finally understood. Melissa came home late again. I was sitting on the couch, TV on but not watching. She walked in, set her purse down, and gave me that same tired, polite smile. The kind strangers give each other at the grocery store. I smiled back. Didn't say much. I had stopped trying to start conversations by then. Every attempt just felt like shouting into a tunnel that only echoed my own voice back. She grabbed a glass of water and disappeared upstairs. And I just sat there, staring at nothing, letting the quiet hang around like smoke. That was the night I stopped making excuses for her. You can only pretend for so long that your wife is just busy, that she's going through something, that your marriage is just in a rough patch. But eventually, the pieces stop fitting. The stories start contradicting. The gut feelings stop whispering and start howling. I knew. I don't know what it was that finally made me accept it. Maybe it was the way she didn't even check to see how my day was. Or how fast she locked her phone when I glanced over. Maybe it was how she smelled faintly of cologne that didn't belong to me. But it clicked. And instead of feeling devastated, I felt still, numb, like the last piece of a puzzle had slid into place, and now the whole ugly picture was finally clear. I didn't sleep much that night. Just laid in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathing next to me, wondering how long she'd been gone even while living under the same roof, and wondering when she'd finally work up the nerve to leave. It was a Saturday when it happened. I remember because the morning started like any other. Eggs, toast, her scrolling her phone. We didn't talk much anymore, but we'd both gotten good at pretending we were still something. Like two actors stuck in a long-running show that had lost its spark seasons ago. Around noon, she said she was going out for a bit, errands. I nodded, didn't ask where. I already knew she wouldn't tell the truth anyway. She left wearing her nothing special clothes, but she still put on perfume. That told me more than anything she could have said. I waited 10 minutes, then got in my truck and drove. Not sure where I was going at first. Just needed to move, to think. But my hands turned the wheel on their own, right into the parking lot of Eric's gym. And sure enough, there it was. Her car, parked right out front. I didn't go in. Didn't need to. I sat across the street and stared at that building like it had personally insulted me. Every minute that passed was another nail in the coffin. Another confirmation. Another reason to stop pretending. I sat there for almost an hour. Then I drove home. That was the moment I decided I wouldn't confront her. I wouldn't beg or blow up. She'd made her choice. I just needed to be ready for mine. That night, when she came back, she didn't even look guilty. In fact, she seemed lighter, happier. Maybe Eric was better at faking love than I was at hiding heartbreak. I didn't ask where she'd been. Didn't need to. And for the first time since this all began, I felt like the silence between us wasn't suffocating. It was preparation. The universe has a cruel sense of timing. I was in the garage, reorganizing shelves that didn't need organizing. Just something to keep my hands busy while my brain refused to slow down. That's when Emily came out, holding her phone like it weighed 50 pounds. She looked nervous. I figured it was school stuff. Maybe a friend being dramatic. But then she said something that made my stomach drop. She said she wanted to tell me something about Mom and Eric. That name. From her mouth. My own daughters. I froze. Completely. She sat down on the workbench and avoided my eyes, like she was scared of what her words might do. I braced myself, thinking maybe she saw something. Maybe she overheard a call. I expected something vague, something I'd have to read between the lines. What I didn't expect was what she actually said. She told me she thought Eric was Mom's real love. Not a mistake. Not a fling. Not some dumb midlife crisis. Her real love. I stood there, gripping a wrench I didn't need, and everything inside me cracked. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just listened, numb, as she told me how Mom had said they'd found each other again. That they had history. That it was complicated but meant to be. And here's the kicker. Emily didn't sound angry. She sounded like she was trying to justify it to herself. Like she was already being fed the story that made it okay. It felt like betrayal layered on top of betrayal. I wanted to scream that it wasn't real love, that real love doesn't sneak around and destroy families. But I didn't. I just nodded, told her I appreciated her honesty, and sat back down at my workbench like the air hadn't just been knocked out of me. Because the worst part wasn't hearing she had told our daughter about the affair. It was hearing that she was trying to turn my daughter into someone who believed it was love. It's funny how the truth doesn't always come crashing in like a movie climax. Sometimes it just lands. Soft. Quiet. Like a feather dropped from a high place. And by the time it touches the ground, you realize everything has changed. After what Emily told me, the numbness didn't leave. It settled in. Like a coat you didn't want to wear, but couldn't take off. I walked around the house that week like a ghost in my own life. Melissa, meanwhile, acted lighter. More animated. Like getting things out in the open, at least to Emily, gave her a free pass to stop pretending altogether. She didn't hide her texts anymore. She didn't bother giving reasons for late nights. She wasn't even cold toward me, she was indifferent. Which, in some ways, was worse. She stopped asking how my day was. Stopped making small talk. Stopped treating me like someone she lived with, and started treating me like someone she was simply passing through. And I let it happen. Not because I was weak, but because I needed to see how far she'd take it. How much she'd really show me without saying the words. Then one night, I walked past her phone sitting on the counter while she was upstairs. It lit up. That was new. The heart emoji wasn't there before. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to read the message. I didn't need the details anymore. I had everything I needed. She had left me, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, long before she'd ever pack a bag. This was just confirmation. Quiet. Final. Like a door that closes softly, but locks behind you. There wasn't a moment where I slammed my fist down and declared, "That's it." No dramatic music. No breakdown. Just a quiet morning when I realized I couldn't do it anymore. I was drinking coffee, same kitchen, same mug, same seat I'd always sat in. Melissa walked in, grabbed her keys, and said she was heading out. No eye contact. No smile. Just gone. Like a roommate. Or less than that. I sat there staring at the front door for a long time after she left. That was when it hit me. I didn't have a marriage anymore. I had a situation. A performance. A slow, quiet erosion that had left just enough structure standing to fool the neighbors. But inside, it was rubble. I didn't even feel anger by then. I felt empty. Like I had already mourned something no one else even knew had died. So I made the call. Nothing big, just reached out to an old friend who was a lawyer. Told him I needed to talk. He didn't ask questions. Just gave me a time. That same day, I opened a private email. A new checking account. I wasn't being sneaky. I was being careful. I knew what Melissa was capable of now, not just infidelity, but pretending everything was fine while she emotionally rewired our daughter and made plans behind my back. I wasn't going to wait for her to leave me officially. I wasn't going to sit around until she decided it was convenient to go full-time with her real love. This time, I'd be the one making the choice. Because staying in a house where you're no longer chosen, where you've been quietly replaced and expected to smile through it, that's not strength. That's surrender. And I was done surrendering. The thing about leaving isn't the packing, it's the planning. The part where you mentally walk through every room, every routine, every tiny shared piece of your life, and figure out how to quietly pull yourself out of it without making noise. I didn't want drama. I didn't want some screaming match in the driveway or a crying kid caught in the middle. I just wanted out clean, quiet, with whatever dignity I had left. So I started fading out, one layer at a time. I moved some tools from the garage into the back of my truck. Just the ones that mattered to me. Melissa didn't notice. Or if she did, she didn't ask. Probably too busy texting Eric about how nice it was not having to fake a marriage anymore. Next was paperwork. Birth certificate, passport, my dad's old watch, a few photos of Emily when she was little. I didn't take much. Just what I knew I couldn't replace. I found a little storage unit across town, cash payments, no paper trail. I dropped a few boxes off each day after work, like I was going to the gym or running errands. No suspicion. She didn't care where I was, anyway. The lawyer and I worked out a plan. It wasn't about revenge. I didn't want to burn everything down. I just wanted what was fair. A clean break. No games. If she wanted out, she could have it. But she wasn't getting to rewrite the past or make me the villain. I'd spent years giving everything to that house. That life. That woman. Now I was putting my energy into leaving it behind the right way. Not for her. For me. It ended the same way it started, casually. I came home late from work one evening, on purpose. Sat in my truck for a while, just watching the house. One light on upstairs. None downstairs. Her car was in the driveway, but the place felt hollow, like even the house had finally caught on that we weren't really a family anymore. When I walked in, Melissa was on the couch with a glass of wine. Legs curled up under a blanket, phone in hand, smirking at whatever was on the screen. Probably him. I gave her a nod, walked to the kitchen, and grabbed a drink. I wasn't even angry. Just numb. She looked up at me and said something like, "We need to talk." And in that moment, I knew she was going to finally admit it. Say it out loud. Not because she respected me, but because she was ready to make the jump. Leave the fake marriage behind and move in with her real love, the one who got the hearts and late-night messages, while I got the bills and cold silence. She didn't cry. Didn't apologize. She spoke like she was reading off a prepared statement. She said she didn't want to pretend anymore. That Eric made her feel alive again. That it wasn't about me, it was about her. That line always gets me, "It's not about you." Funny, when you're the one getting gutted, it sure feels like it's about you. I didn't argue. Just listened, nodded, and let her talk. Then I told her I'd already spoken to a lawyer. She blinked. That wiped the smugness off her face real fast. I said I'd be moving out by the end of the week. That I wanted it to be easy, and civil, and done. She didn't know what to say. For once, she wasn't in control. The funny thing is, I thought I'd feel something when she packed her bags. Anger, maybe. Relief. Grief. But all I felt was, still. She didn't make a scene. No tears, no guilt trip. Just quiet, efficient movements like someone checking out of a hotel room. She took what she needed. Left a few things behind, probably on purpose. A sweater on the chair, a mug in the sink. Like she wanted to haunt the place a little longer. Emily stayed in her room that night. Barely looked at me. I knew Melissa had gotten to her first, told her their version of love, painted me as the distant one, the one who gave up. Kids don't always see betrayal the way adults do. Sometimes, they just follow the one who smiles more. And Melissa was all smiles. I stayed up late that night, sitting in the backyard with a beer in my thoughts. Everything was quiet except for the wind and the occasional hum of traffic down the road. I thought about the early days. The dumb little routines we used to have. Sunday pancakes. Her cold feet in bed. Our daughter's laugh echoing down the hallway when we tickled her between episodes of some cartoon I pretended to hate. That life was gone now. Torn apart not in one blow, but over time. Eaten away like rust under paint. And for what? So she could chase some recycled high school crush and call it fate? I didn't know if I'd ever get my daughter back the way she was. But I knew I couldn't stay in that house. Not with the shadows of what used to be. It was time to go. I left on a Thursday. No announcement. No dramatic exit. Just loaded up the truck with the few things I hadn't stashed away already, locked the door behind me, and didn't look back. The place I found wasn't much. A small rental out by the edge of town, single story, quiet neighborhood, no shared walls or loud neighbors. Just me and the sound of my own breathing for the first time in years. I set up a mattress on the floor, threw my old coffee pot on the counter, and sat there for a long time not doing anything. No TV, no internet, just silence. A kind of silence that feels both peaceful and unsettling. Like your ears are waiting for the chaos you've been living in to catch up and knock on the door. But it didn't. The next morning, I went to work like always. Nobody there knew. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. It was weird, being in a place where everything felt the same, while inside, Everything had been stripped bare. Emily texted once. Just, "Are you okay?" I stared at that message for a long time, unsure what to say. I typed out a few things, deleted them. Eventually, I just replied, "Yeah, I'm all right. Hope you are too." That was it. I knew I couldn't force her to see things differently. Not now. Maybe not ever. Melissa never reached out. I didn't expect her to. I think she knew I was done. Not angry, not vengeful, just done in that deep, permanent kind of way. And honestly, that hurt more than I care to admit. But there I was. New address. New silence. Same man. Just trying to figure out what it means to rebuild when the thing you thought would never break did. I wish I could end this with some grand epiphany. Like I found peace hiking through the mountains or met someone new at a coffee shop who magically made everything okay. But that's not how real life works. The truth? Some days are good. Most are just quiet. And some hit you in the chest when you least expect it. Like hearing a song she used to hum, or seeing your daughter post a picture of them together, smiling like nothing ever happened. But here's the thing, I survived. Not in a hero's way. Not with grace or some deep spiritual breakthrough. Just by putting one foot in front of the other. Getting out of bed. Going to work. Eating dinner alone and not letting it break me. There's still a hollow space where my family used to be. I don't try to fill it. I just live around it. Let it sit there. It's part of the story now. Emily and I talk occasionally. It's distant, polite. I miss her more than I can explain, but I've learned not to push. She'll come around if and when she's ready. I just try to be steady. To be someone she can still see is safe. As for Melissa, I've stopped trying to understand her choices. Maybe Eric really was her true love. Or maybe he was just the one she used to escape the life she didn't want anymore. Doesn't matter now. That door's closed. But here's the shadow of hope I mentioned. Sometimes, late at night, I'll step outside and feel the wind hit my face. And for a second, I don't feel angry. I don't feel broken. I just feel free. Like maybe this whole thing, as gutting as it was the push I needed to finally live for myself again. So yeah, she left. But I didn't lose everything. I'm still here. And I'm not done yet.